Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Game 5 tonight in San Francisco. Should the Lakers go all out or get a little rest before Game 6? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, and often on weekends, particularly in the playoffs, Andy, which look like they might extend a little while longer for these Lakers. It's always going to be free. It's never going to be behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see our smiling faces after the Lakers keep piling up victory after victory after victory in the postseason. Upwards over 16,000 subscribers on the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel. That thing is growing like hotcakes.
Just keep going.
I think I'm mixing my metaphors here. But the point is the channel's getting big, and we appreciate all the support there. Doing to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Andy, I'm wondering, do you think people will be using the Game Time app to get tickets for Game 6 for the Lakers? Some of that, I guess, depends on what kind of mindset you go into if you're LA for Game 5, whether you all out, try to end that thing tonight, whether maybe you hold back a little bit, make sure your guys are well rested. Fatigue's not an issue for Game 6. I've seen people argue both sides of this.
Well, most notably, it was Mike Greenberg on Get Up, one of the ESPN programs, where he said, quote, "Here's my suggestion. LeBron needs to just slip a nice comfy robe over those pair of slippers and get set to watch Game 5 from the comfort of his mansion and shouldn't even go to San Francisco. The Lakers have no chance of winning Game 5 of the series. The Warriors are going to be playing for their dynasty at home with the crowd. They're going to win. Don't waste any of LeBron and AD's energy on this game. Don't try to win 5 games in a best of 7 when you don't need to. You only need to win 1 game." I'm being somewhat facetious when I say don't even bring them. But I guess what I am saying is I would be very judicious about how much I would use LeBron and AD in Game 5, understanding my best chance to close out this series is at home in Game 6. That's certainly a take from Greeny.
It is, and I am glad at least that he clarified that they should in fact bring everyone on the trip.
Well, if nothing else, I mean, you want LeBron and AD there for leadership. I mean, even if they're not going to be playing, it's going to mean a lot to Tristan Thompson and Max Christie when they get this surprise start to try to keep the rotation intact as much as possible. Those guys are going to be leaning on LeBron and AD for tips and insights. So it's much better to do that in person than over Zoom, I guess.
Right. And so look, I mean, he is, as he noted near the end of that, there are a couple things in there. The first is he is obviously quite confident that the Warriors are going to come out, play extremely well, and basically refuse to allow their dynasty to die on their home floor. And look, I think part of that is certainly true. I think they're going to come out and play really hard. I can't vouch for the well part because they haven't been great in this series. They've lost 3 games and 4 tries. So I think the notion that, they're a bankable performance for Game 5 is inaccurate. I would expect them to play well. I would expect them probably to win the game if I had to pick someone. Again, home floor, they perform well, all that stuff. But it is far from a sure thing that the Lakers can't go up to San Francisco tonight and win that game.
No, it's absolutely not a given that the Lakers couldn't win this Game 5. I mean, look, both of our original predictions were Lakers in 7, which means by definition, we thought the Lakers could close the series on the road if you think winning game 5 on the road would be difficult, try winning game 7. So
and we were there for it.
Yeah, clearly this is something that the Lakers are capable of doing. And the idea that you know how the Warriors are going to play, or that you know exactly what will happen in this game, period. For example, not that anybody would root for this on either side, but Steph could turn an ankle and miss, say, a quarter or a half. Somebody could end up getting ejected. You know, it's always at least a 30% bet.
Would you have in mind, Green?
You know, like things happen during a game. Clay and Steph could have another combined game where they shoot like 25% from three.
6 of 24 they were in game 4 and from 3-point range. I mean, look, and I think his larger point was one that is definitely worth discussing, and one that I know I've thought about over the course of the, you know, since the Lakers won game 4. It's like, what do you do with this one? Like, remember in game 2, the Lakers, who, you know, came in as fresh as they could possibly get for game 1, stole that game. Game 2, they weren't as sharp. Golden State kind of gave them no real openings to come back, and Darvin sat guys in the fourth quarter. I'm not saying the Lakers didn't try to win game 2, because I think they did.
They absolutely did.
But I do think they were also willing to kind of pull the plug maybe a little early and not take heroic measures to try to win that one. You can make an argument that the Lakers might want to approach game 5 the same way, where you go as hard as you can while there's a realistic chance of winning the game. But if that chance disappears, Golden State's up by 17 with 6 minutes left in the game, okay, fine, you sit players and do whatever. But I feel like game 2 and game 5 are very different kinds of entities. You have a chance to eliminate a team, to not have to go back and play 1 or potentially 2 more games in an every other day sequence. I don't think you can afford to sort of schedule loss this one in the way that Greeny and other people I've seen have floated this idea. I don't think you can afford to do it.
No, I mean, respectfully to anybody floating that idea, it's ridiculous. It's, I think, really short-sighted and kind of silly. Like, playoff games are all valuable. There is no such thing as a throwaway playoff game. Now, if, say, game 5 goes a lot like game 2 and the Lakers start the thing down 25 at the top of the 4th, I could see, all right, you know what? The likelihood of coming back in this game is pretty damn small. Let's save LeBron and AD 5 or 6 minutes of hard play when we know they're not likely to make this thing happen. But
not everything. The Portland game, you know, where they came back from 27 or whatever it was.
But I'll tell you this: if they start the fourth quarter down 10, down a dozen, damn right you play. Because we've seen the Lakers make these sort of comebacks. And as much as everybody, including you and I, have focused on the idea of LeBron's wear and tear, his age, the injury that he's playing through, Anthony Davis's injury history, the injury he's playing through, Austin Reaves being exhausted, everything that it took for these guys to push themselves post-trade deadline to 500 into the playoff mix, all that, and that it was physically and mentally exhausting. The truth is, if you are that concerned about them hitting empty, that you're worried about them playing an extra 6 minutes in game 5 of the second round, the reality is, if you're correct to be that worried, they're not long for this ride anyway.
Well,
there's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think
if you have to be that careful, like,
well, but I mean, it's not even so. It's
careful.
not just so much. It's not necessarily so much about careful in the sense like you could, if we do this wrong, they're going to be able. It's how do you maximize if you burn them out more in game 5, you're hurting the opportunity to win in game 6. It's not so much that you're worried about them getting hurt, this, that, or whatever.
No,
By
I
the
know
way,
that.
what you were talking about with Steph in terms of guys can turn an ankle, people can hurt. Like that's why you want to go in. Like strange things can happen and whatever. But I would say the bigger thing for me isn't so much the concern about in the context you're talking about. It's that the best remedy for the Lakers is to end the series tonight so that there is no game 6, so that you don't have to play. Then you get, at least an extra night because I don't know what the schedule is going to be. But
it starts Tuesday. Tuesday is the first game.
First day of the Western Conference. Right.
The third
So
round. Yeah.
no matter what happens. So great. The Lakers get off until Tuesday. That's the best way to give these guys the break that you want them to have, is to win the series. Now, if you can't do it, you can't do it. But that's the approach that I would take, and it's the approach I would expect them to take. Golden State's obviously got their backs against the walls. The Lakers made a bunch of adjustments for Game 4, and I'm wondering maybe what we're going to look at tonight on the floor. What else might Steve Kerr have up his sleeve? That's next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. And years ago, friends of mine and I, we went to go see LL Cool J in LA, really last minute. Didn't know how to get tickets. We decided to buy them from a scalper. Turns out we got scalped. They were faked. And, we ended up getting in this concert through some random connections. But I said after that experience, I am never doing anything like that again. And you don't have to. And that's why I love Game Time. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy shows, theater near you, and with killer deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun. And I love how they offer images of seat views because there's nothing worse than a bad angle. They got the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. The Game Time guarantee also means you will always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, tickets go directly to your phone and you're set. Snag the tickets without the stress of Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
So, I mean, I think, we'll move on here in a sec. I think the other reason that the Lakers should, try to make a push here is just the Warriors are vulnerable. Like there were, everybody had a lot of reasons, and I think legitimately to be scared of this team, to be respectful at the very least of this team heading into the series. Certainly the Kings, I think, showed they were a much more, I mean, I can honestly say that I didn't quite understand the sort of assumption that the Kings wouldn't be good in the playoffs, but they showed that they were a legitimate team, and the Warriors went out and they won in that building for a Game 7 handily, and they beat a good team, and their Steph and their Clay, and now they've got home. There are a lot of tons of reasons to be respectful of them, but whether or not it's because they're just kind of missing that thing, or the Lakers just present a terrible matchup for them. And now that 6 of 8 the Lakers have won this season, they're very vulnerable, and there's just no reason to give them any daylight if you can avoid it.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, as far as the matchup issue, I think the Lakers are a bad matchup for the Warriors, and we've seen it during the regular season. We've seen it during these playoffs. They have to load up so much focusing on Anthony Davis. And in the meantime, obviously the Lakers don't have any guards that are as great as Steph Curry. And you could even argue they don't have any that are as good as Klay Thompson, but they have more good guards to throw into the matchup, trying to offset what goes along with Steph and Klay. than the Warriors have. They have better depth. I think they have. This was something I did an episode of Access Lakers on Spectrum Sportsnet, the Lakers TV partner, and we were talking about the depth of this Lakers team and what's been revealed during this playoffs. And one of the things that sort of dawned on me thinking about this is we've talked so much about how the Lakers, post trade deadline, they brought in all these players where the skill sets all fit better, they play off each other a lot better. The fit issues are just obvious. And defensively, they ended up being able to crank it up to a level that I don't think either one of us foresaw. But the pieces
I think we all thought they'd be better defensively after the trade, but not this much better.
No. But one of the things when I was really thinking about this roster now, because there have been a lot of games where the Laker role players have come through. There have been a couple big games for Rui. There's been some big games for Austin Reaves, D'Angelo Russell, now Lonnie Walker. Between Schroeder, who's also had a few good games, Russell, Reaves, Rui, Lonnie, they have an unusual amount of role players who can create their own shot credibly against good defenses. Like, not at an all-star level, anything like that. But better, way better than average. And 7 guys, when you count LeBron and AD, that's a lot. That's a lot to account for. That I hadn't thought about it really along those lines, but that's unusual in terms of thinking about team depth. They have more of that than Golden State. Like, sometimes matchups just matter. Like the Clippers are a terrible matchup for the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that play out for a few years now. Sometimes the matchups matter more than whatever you consider the top end talent.
Yeah. And I do not claim to be an everyday Warriors watcher. I see them play a fair amount. They're on the West Coast, so it's easier for me to watch games. I love watching Steph and Clay play. I like watching Draymond. I mean, when they're whole, they're a really fun team to watch. So I've seen them a decent amount, but just with that caveat, like I was in Dallas when the Lakers played the Mavericks in 2011, when the title run ended. And it was funny. It was like we spent the entire season kind of like recognizing that Lakers team performed at a higher level than this Warriors team. They had a better record,
without question.
But that was a very much a flip the switch kind of group. Like, well, they'll flip the switch. They underperformed, and just all season long, kind of the vibes were off. And there was just sort of the hope and the assumption, really, because of their track record, that, okay, well, once the playoffs, they're just this many go rounds, they're just waiting for the playoffs and they'll turn it on and it'll be fine. And, they got into that second round against Dallas and it was not fine. And I'm getting similar vibes from this Warriors team. And it may be uneducated, maybe undereducated, whatever it is, but sometimes your profile over the course of a season just kind of is what you are. And like there's a limit as to what you can get. And the flaws that you think you're going to overcome are just, no, you're not. They're flaws. And that was the problem. And some of the stuff that we thought the Lakers were going to overcome that year and change when it mattered most, they couldn't. This was that team. And they were, a better version than this Warriors group was, at least in the regular season, but still off. And we knew it was off, but we just assumed it didn't matter. And, it is really hard to sustain these runs year in and year out and year in and year out. And, the Lakers obviously didn't have as good of a record as the Warriors, but the team that the Warriors are playing in this series had a significantly better winning percentage than the Warriors did. So, I mean, in that sense, it's not that surprising what we're seeing.
No. And I mean, look, obvious caveat, the Lakers have to treat Game 5 and however many games remain in this series with incredible urgency. Like they need to play with the focus and purpose of a team that's down 3-1 as opposed to up 3-1. But the truth is, and I know I've said this a couple times during the season, the Warriors have not looked the part this year. Like, they just haven't. And I think there can be a reticence by people in our position, like people broadly, media, to ever bet against a defending champion or like a team with a track record, because people keep the receipts and you feel like you're more vulnerable to end up on freezing cold takes. And there's this stuff ends up like in the social media vortex of the world that you and I work in and live in. And there are a lot of people who take that stuff seriously. Thankfully for you and I, we are not two of those people. We've come to realize a long time ago, none of this really matters.
Nope.
And that's why I have to go with what I've seen. And again, this is not to say that the Lakers are like worlds better than the Warriors, because I don't think that's the case. But I do think they are decidedly better. And I think they decidedly offer a mismatch and just problems that the Warriors can't really figure out. And we've seen this, by the way, because the Warriors have gone to 3 different starting lineups over 4 games. They've tinkered with the rotation pretty radically. Steve Kerr is a really creative, good coach. And I'd never claim to be able to try to even predict some of the things that he can come up with. But I have to imagine you're reaching a point where you're out of moves, like as far as significant ones. Plus, the more you start doing radical changes, the more you're actually sending a message to the players. I ain't got an effing idea what to do right now.
Yeah.
Like at some point, it's play better. You need to play better.
Yeah, I've thought about that. We'll get to the break after the break, and that, and Andy, the postseason honorariums continue to roll out of the NBA and continue to, I won't say ignore Lakers, but find Lakers in interesting positions relative to their postseason performances. I think Lakers fans might know what we're getting at. We'll get to it next. To your point, before we move on to the all defensive teams that were announced on Tuesday, yes, I mean, Steph and Clay. That's why Game 4 was so important. We mentioned it, 6 of 24 for Steph and Clay. That's the Lakers had to win that game, and it was ugly, and they didn't play particularly well. They did certain things very well, but overall, it was certainly offensively, it was a challenge.
They not until the fourth quarter when they were the better team. When it really mattered, they were. But
right,
the majority of that game,
3-minute stretch, like a minute and a half stretch or 2-minute stretch at the beginning of the third, where they were the better team, and they had. I think there was a run like that in the first half. But in terms of sustained time as the better team, it was the fourth quarter.
Absolutely.
That's why LeBron and AD both exceeded 40 minutes. Like that's you needed to win that game, and they did. And look, I ultimately expect that the Golden State will probably win Game 5, and the Lakers will turn around, and I think would be very confident. I think they would win Game 6, and then we all chillax for the weekend and wait until Tuesday. But
have our wives not angry at us that we're having to cover Game 7 during Mother's
Day?
Hypothetically speaking, I'm apropos to nothing in particular.
We don't even have plans necessarily. Like we're not going any. Let's end the series before then. It's not my fault that they keep scheduling stuff on Mother's Day and Christmas and all these other things. I'm not doing this for free. I mean, the time and the effort goes to the bills. It goes to the kids' soccer. I mean, this is not like a funsies kind of thing we're doing, but still better that they don't do it on Mother's Day.
Yeah, let me just really quick, because we do occasionally speak at like USC journalism classes, or we hear from young fledgling journalists, people who want to get into media. They want some advice and insights. We can give them.
Don't. But anyway.
Well, there's don't. But then there's also.
The robots are coming, children. Come on.
Besides don't, the next piece of advice I would give them is I don't care how long you're in this particular relationship. If you had this job when you began the relationship, and the job never changes, your significant other, if they care at all about holidays or anything that involves a Hallmark card, they will hate your job.
They do. Yeah, it's true.
But
We're not
moving
even traveling beat people. Like
No.
it could be worse.
When we used to do that, sometimes they really hated it.
Oh my God.
Anywho,
I'm still.
thankfully they never listen to this show.
Yeah, it's oh God. F no. We've done how many of these over the course of 2 years? You want to guess how many my wife has listened to?
Same as my wife's
Zero.
zero.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I 100% chance the answer to that question is 0. Never listened to the show. But yeah, you're right. Steph and Clay, like the Warriors can win.
They're not everydayers.
No, they are not.
Thank you to the everydayers, but not our spouses.
If we were doing Locked On Bravo, I might have a chance. Locked On that sailboat show.
No. The worst part is my wife is actually a massive sports fan. She still hates my job.
Yeah. What's the name of the it doesn't matter. So I mean, you're right. Steph and Clay, the Warriors can win if Steph and Clay have gigantic offensive nights, maybe, but the Lakers just have a lot more leeway based on the matchups. In part because Anthony Davis is a factor that the Warriors, even with Draymond and his really amazing defensive abilities, they can't account for him. And they particularly are struggling to account for Anthony Davis when the Warriors are trying to score. He continues to be a terror on that side of the ball. The all defensive teams came out on Tuesday. Not only did Anthony Davis not make the team, he got 9 votes. He was pretty far down on the table in the also receiving votes category. It is another reminder he didn't get a single vote for DPOY this year. He's not going to, I don't think he's going to make the all NBA teams. And so, and meanwhile, he has been the most dominant player in the postseason.
Certainly
Jokic?
Defensively.
Certainly defensively he has been.
Absolutely.
Overall, but I mean, you can make the argument, but defensively, who's been more impactful?
Reminder that the Lakers play the Warriors tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific time. The Lakers have the opportunity to clinch this series. Fans have the opportunity to watch Anthony Davis dominate again defensively. You can catch every bucket of the Lakers hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search Lakers. Yeah, there's not a prayer that he's going to get any of these type of accolades. And look, to some degree, this does actually make sense. Like the Lakers spent a lot of this time, during the season trying to reach 500 in a period when the defense on top of it was generously speaking meh. And it's difficult to stand out defensively, even when you're doing good work on a team that is below 500 on a defense that's meh. Anthony Davis missed a lot of games. He was listed, by the way, this was weird. This was actually strange. He was listed as a forward as opposed to a center. And for what it's worth, I don't think it would have made a difference one way or the other. He wasn't going to beat out the 2 centers ahead of him either. Brook Lopez, he would not have beaten out, and Bam Adebayo, he would not have beaten out. I just think him being listed as a forward when he's played like 98% of his minutes at center, I guess if nothing else can make Anthony Davis feel happy that he's convinced these voters that he's a power forward.
I mean,
he's sort of apropos to a season where with what we're seeing right now in the playoffs, it doesn't make sense that Anthony Davis would get so little representation, even if it sort of makes sense.
Well, I mean, you and I used to talk, we would laugh about this, like convinced that the Blazers were paying people around the league to try to find ways to snub Damian Lillard. Like, can you keep him off an all-star team? Can you keep him out of the, because after every year after the all-star break, Lillard either is like a question mark to get on, or maybe he gets on as an injury replacement or whatever. He would torch the league for like 6 weeks because he was so spiteful. I would hope, I think that, it would next year, I don't care if Anthony Davis plays 82 games. like and is obviously the defensive player of the year. I feel like the Lakers should launch a campaign to make sure it doesn't happen, because I think when you listen to AD talk over the last few games, the last few days, like every time, like he is very aware of these results, and I think is offended by them, which is great. I want him to be offended. I don't want him to be happy and pleased that he's being recognized. I want him to be angry and ticked and feel overlooked and try to send a message, that Giannis is out of the playoffs, Brook Lopez is out of the playoffs, Jaren Jackson Jr. is out of the playoffs, and Jalen
Draymond Green, he's hoping to help eliminate from the
is
playoffs.
almost on his way out, and Marcus Smart is almost on his way out, and like
Marcus Smart didn't finish first or second team all defense.
Marcus
reigning
Smart
defensive player of the year.
This is why all these defensive things, like, did Marcus Smart go from being the best defensive player in the NBA to like an also ran in a season? And it's not like the Celtics sucked or had a bad defense. It's these awards are very weird, but I think the moral of the story for the Lakers is that Anthony Davis has taken this quite personally. I think it's fantastic. I hope there are 2 or 3 other things that he can be snubbed for between now and the end of the playoffs. I'm not sure what they would be, but I hope it happens.
Obviously, the goal for this season is to end up winning the championship, and if they do end up winning the championship, I think the odds strongly favor Anthony Davis ending up finals MVP if this did happen. And again, big if, not.
Okay, I'm willing to give that to him.
Sure. He would end up the very rare finals MVP who received absolutely no hardware or accolades at all during the season. Like it's basically, I think, like Andre Iguodala in 2015 and this theoretical with AD. I think
they sent his mom my son got 9 points in the all NBA defensive team voting bumper sticker, but that's basically all he got. Yeah, I mean, right now, and look, I mean, the Lakers and Celtics were 1 and 2 in the Vegas betting odds going into Tuesday's games. The Sixers beat the Celtics. I mean, the Lakers are going to, waking up on Wednesday as the betting favorite to win an NBA title, which is crazy. There's a lot that goes into that, but again, very different place than we were in January. So we'll see what happens tonight. Love to see the Lakers end this series and remove any chance of us being in trouble on Mother's Day. Locked On Lakers on YouTube. It's really important that we focus on what matters, which is our marriages. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to watch the show and participate, leave comments, and cross your fingers for us and every husband out there who has somebody out there for Mother's Day.
My wife.
What?
Or
That's
wife.
true. Yes, you're right. I correct. Every spouse.
Yes.
That's how I should have phrased that. You are correct. All right, we'll see everybody after the game on Wednesday.